Despite what you may have heard, both on this platform and in other places, electric vehicles can and do tow all manner of different things, either officially or unofficially. And because we are now very much into the height of summer in the Northern Hemisphere, and data shows us that more and more people are driving electric vehicles than ever before, it is high time we gave you a few tips and tricks to help you successfully tow with your EV, be it a tiny tow-behind trailer or something more substantial. So today I'm going to do just that. We're going to discuss which vehicles can tow, what you should expect when you are towing, and of course, the really important thing, what to bear in mind when travelling longer distances with something following you uncomfortably close in the rearview mirror. While some people are pretty darned derisive about electric vehicles towing and some people downright advise against it, even those who consider themselves EV advocates, I'd like to acknowledge here that I have been towing with an EV for many, many years. I've towed garden trailers and motorcycle trailers with my Chevrolet Bolt EV, sometimes over hundreds of miles across several days. I've towed cars behind my Ford F-150 Lightning and, for a short period, even a tiny home, although that last one was admittedly off-road. And the thing that comes up again and again for me isn't that electric vehicles are poorly suited to towing, because they're not. They have bucket loads of torque, no gears to worry about, and are unusually willing to pull whatever you ask them to. It's not even that a lot of charging infrastructure isn't built up to accommodate towing vehicles. It is that success or failure when towing comes down to your familiarity with the vehicle and the preparation you're willing to put in before you head off. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start at the beginning. Depending on where you live, your vehicle may or may not be approved to tow, and you might find that the very same vehicle in two different markets may have two very different listed towing capabilities. This is most noticeable in much of Europe, where these days a vehicle must be type approved to tow in order to be legal. That means the automaker must have made a conscious decision when getting their vehicle approved for sale to get the vehicle tested and verified for safe towing at whatever their chosen limit was. Sometimes there are, of course, exceptions designed to allow you to tow very lightweight trailers, but for the most part, if your car is going to tow and you're in Europe, it needs to have been approved to tow. That's not to say people don't fit aftermarket tow bars, because they do, but if anything goes wrong, bad things happen. I should also note here that in many European countries, you may even need to take a special driving test to be allowed to tow with any vehicle, and the newer your license is, the more likely it is you're going to have a towing restriction on your driving license. Because we as a family didn't have a car when I was growing up, I didn't learn to drive until I was in my mid-20s, and despite not being that different in age to Kate Walden-Elliott, who passed her test when she was much younger, I'm actually not allowed to tow more than about 850 kilograms on my UK driving licence, but Kate is approved to tow a whole lot more, as she still delights in telling me. In other countries, it's a little different. My US driving licence, for example, allows me to drive pretty much any vehicle under £26,000 with fewer than 16 seats, as long as it's not been operating for commercial reasons, and tow pretty much any sensibly sized trailer. And in a similar way, regulations are different in the US for adding towing capabilities to your car. While some vehicles do come from the factory with tow bars fitted or have tow bars available as official add-ons, most EVs on sale today do have the option to add a tow bar using a third-party hitch. And while you might hear many horror stories about warranties and tow bars and towing, the oft-quoted law is the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act of 1975, which generally is interpreted to say that if you tow with your vehicle and break your vehicle, then make a warranty claim. The onus is on the dealership and sometimes the automaker to prove that you towing caused the failure that you're now trying to claim on your vehicle's warranty. Of course, towing with your EV is something you should do at your own risk, and I am not a lawyer, but I do think you should go and watch Steve Leto over at Leto's Law, because he is a lawyer and he knows plenty about the intersection of the auto industry and US law. In the US, the majority of EVs made in the last decade, and some before, can and do regularly tow. If your EV is a higher and higher priced model with all-wheel drive and pretty beefy motors, even if it didn't come from the factory with hitches, you can probably buy an aftermarket solution. For what it's worth, I'm personally a fan of hitches made by the folks at Torque Lift Central in Washington State, who have a really cool setup where if your car isn't already offered, they'll make one for you if you're willing to lend them your car for a few days, and then the resulting hitch then becomes a brand new model that is sold by the company. I'm also personally a fan of no-drill solutions, as it means you can return your car to stock afterwards if you want. The downside is that while it's generally pretty easy to get a hitch for your car aftermarket, you might not always be able to find a plug-and-play wiring solution for trailer lights. And while that's also pretty easy if you're electrically minded, pay attention if you are an early Chevrolet Bolt EV owner wanting to add trailer wiring, as the loom at the back is very complicated and which lights light up depend on where the tailgate is, so triple check before you splice. Ask me how I know. Don't ask me how I know. When buying a hitch, pay attention to the rating of the hitch just as you would with any vehicle, and get one that's appropriate for your vehicle's planned towing duties. There are hitches out there today that look like they might be a good fit for towing, but are actually designed for little more than carrying bicycle racks and hitch-mounted load carriers. If in doubt, opt for at least a Class 2 hitch in the US and Canada for most EVs, and if your EV is larger and can tow, well, the chances are you probably already have a higher class hitch built into your vehicle. At this point, I'm going to assume that you have your hitch set up and maybe a trailer already in mind. Again, make sure, like you would with any car, that the trailer plus its load isn't going to put you over your official rated towing limit, and now you're ready for actual towing. As with any vehicle, towing should be something you practice to keep your skill level up and ensure the thing you're towing, like your EV, is in good condition. You will also need to make sure that you're properly loading the thing you're towing, including a vehicle if you're towing a vehicle carrier, and that the weight is properly distributed on the trailer. This is imperative, as you're going to need to be able to hitch and unhitch that trailer on a long distance trip without loading and unloading whatever it is in or on the trailer. While towing with an EV is different to towing with an internal combustion engine vehicle, and while some things are easier, like pulling away, you will also have to deal with new challenges, specifically dealing with parking and charging. And for this reason, make sure you practice turns and parking maneuvers with your trailer before you leave, not to mention hitching and unhitching. While more and more fast charging stations out there now have pull-through designs, the majority still do not, meaning you will need to become pretty fluent with the trailer hitching and unhitching process, and you'll also need to be good at backing that combination up. I used to assume people who towed with their vehicle all knew how to park a trailer and back up into a tight parking space, but I've since learned that's definitely not true. Being able to do this quickly and efficiently on a long-distance trip will save you time, and also perhaps your reputation. And no, trailer assist technologies, while cool, should not be overly relied on. I've actually seen situations where a fancy trailer assist tech package failed and someone is left looking like a fool. And in my personal experience, the more skilled you are at manual parking and trailer manipulation, the more likely it is you'll be able to slide into that space more quickly and effortlessly than any fancy onboard tech system can do it. Next, if this is your first time towing, get used to your towing setup before you attempt any long-distance trips. Look at what happens when you drive at a certain speed. Note the drop in range or the extra time to slow down. And while most modern EVs, especially the larger trucks, will make it feel like there's honestly nothing on the back, you can't forget that you're towing, because then you will have to suffer the consequences of reduced range and most likely increased drag without actually taking them into effect. Knowing what the difference is between your vehicle without a trailer and your vehicle towing will make the difference between you making your trip a success or being stuck at the side of the road. And because every trailer is really different, it's kind of hard to apply blanket rules. On top of that, your personal skill will also impact your vehicle's towing range. A very general rule of thumb is that if you are towing above 60 or 70 miles an hour, your range will drop by as much as 1/2, sometimes even more, especially if the thing you're trailering is large. Small tow-behind trailers like the motorcycle trailer I used to use with my Bolt EV will impact range less, but they still will have a noticeable impact over a several hundred-mile trip. If you stick to 50 or 55 miles per hour, and the chances are, unless the weather is terrible or the terrain is difficult, you're not going to have a massive problem keeping somewhere between 1/2 and 2/3 of your vehicle's non-towing range in the bank. But, and as I'll repeat myself again, speed is a big range killer. On a good day, for example, my Ford F-150 Lightning Lariat with properly inflated tyres a warm day and a fully charged extended battery pack can manage around 300 miles on the freeway at about 55-ish miles per hour. If I drive it like I stole it or the weather is bad, I can make that drop closer to 230 miles, sometimes even less. This is, by the way, without a trailer. But in a similar way, when we towed a Subaru Legacy halfway across the US a few years ago from Seattle to Colorado on a rented U-Haul car carrier, I was able for the majority of the trip to manage somewhere between 150 and 165 miles in the truck while towing between rapid charging, stopping at around 15% and going up to around 85%-ish. On some legs, we drained the battery a lot more, and on other parts of the trip, we saw closer to 180 miles of achievable range. But planning for about 1/2 of our EPA range left us in good stead most of the time. That said, if you have larger trailers, like a travel trailer, you will find it impacts range more. For towing, there really is no substitute for knowing your vehicle well, and I think this is where most of the people who have done towing tests on YouTube, like Tyler Hoovey for example, have failed. If you don't have a familiarity with your EV without towing before you head out, it's going to be a far more stressful experience than if you already know how your vehicle behaves in certain conditions, as trailers amplify everything, including your range anxiety. The successes you have with towing will ultimately depend on the prep work you do beforehand. Route planning software like a Better Route Planner helps you account for things like trailers, and some vehicles like my Ford F-150 Lightning have the ability to learn the trailer to help better predict range impacts and make informed recommendations about where you should stop to charge. And because driving with a trailer will make things more tiring for you, you should also plan on taking more frequent breaks and making your distances between stops shorter and more manageable. This not only gives you more chance to charge in the event that something goes wrong with your calculations, but it also means you will be more alert and less likely to do something regrettable with something attached to your vehicle. So, giving yourself more time, and yes, towing with an EV will take longer than with an ICE vehicle because of all of those extra recharging stops, will reduce your stress and ensure you make it to your destination safely and in one piece. Thanks for joining me today, and if you've got thoughts, make sure you leave them in our Discord chat room, on our Patreon page, or you can reach out to us on Mastodon. Thanks to the amazing list of people scrolling by on your screen right now. They are some of more than the 1,500 people who help fund this channel through Patreon and YouTube, covering our bills, paying our team, and making sure we can be 100% independent. If you'd like to join them and see your name listed here, just follow the links below. There are a range of different tiers you can sign up for from as little as $1 a month, or if you pay yearly, just under $11 a year. A huge welcome to our newest supporters: Biggs Bronson, Philip Panya, Stephen Trudeau, Laura Connolly, Paul Giblin, Kaboombox, Oliver, John Franks, Bill Lascelle, Brent Smith, Terry and Rich UK, Wendy Kelly Budenbaum, Joe Hamlin, Ilian Oster, Brian Curry, Chelsea Williams, and Adekunle Ferinha. To join the list and get your shout out, become a paid Patreon member and get your moment of fame. If you'd like to support us with a one-off donation, you'll find links below to make Ko-fi and Bitcoin donations, and we even have an old-fashioned PO box you can reach us at, address also below. And if you're in need of some swag, you'll find our swag store in the down below. This month, we're talking about accessibility with our latest t-shirt design, and keep your eyes peeled for a brand new special t-shirt for our trip to Everything Electric in Canada next month. We've got some great content coming up, so make sure you're subscribed on PeerTube or YouTube, and we'll see you soon. We make new videos every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. If you want more, the mighty algorithm thinks you'll like this video, but we think that this one is also well worth a look. See you soon, and as always, keep evolving!